Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's December the 2nd. This will be our chart lesson for today. Hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving holiday. Uh, Time to come back to work here. It's probably going to be slow through the end of the year now. A lot of your professional traders will be taking off. A lot of the funds that drive the market, the hedge funds, the market, um, not the market, but the fund managers and things like that. They take this time of the year off. Wall Street's on a extended holiday, so it's probably going to continue to get slower. Doesn't mean we won't have some good trades and maybe even some good days, some good trend days. But it looks like, today we spent most of the day in a trading range of maybe 1802 to 1808, maybe about 5 points really. That's it. So it looks like most people are still on vacation. There were a few decent trades. There weren't many, especially if you didn't trade after lunch. There were a couple after lunch that you could have caught on the way back down. There were only a couple on the way up that I really liked, even though you had to figure prices were headed back for these highs. It's really dangerous entering in this stuff right here, and so we'll talk about that. And there was, and this is supposed to be red right here. Um, I'll change that so there's no mistaking people wondering what's going on there. But let's talk about the trades. When I came in, all we had was this small range here. Uh, that's really it's the range of the day. We did get a little break below it today that failed, then we broke above it and failed. And um, so we really, all we had was this little bit of price action right here for the overnight, and you automatically want to assume those are high likelihood that'll be your highs and lows. I mean, prices could have gone straight on through here or straight on through to the upside, and if so, then you're probably going to have a trend day. But until you get that trend established, you just about have to assume that it's going to be a range day. And there is somewhat of a little bit of a trend trending down through here. We got the break. Then we got a little reversal pattern here at the top up here where you would expect to find it. And prices quickly moved to the other side, found support, got a little reversal pattern, and slowly rose back to the high side. Spent most of the, basically all morning getting back there. Most of the morning really from, say, 9 o'clock till just prior to 11 o'clock. There's just nothing much happening there. There's not much you can do with that. Um, we did get a nice little move there at the end, and then there was a failed break higher, a second entry short right here. We already had the trend line break. You can see this little channel of the break, the two legs up, the second entry short, and even that one I almost drew it in green, but with the trend line break and the two legs up and then finding resistance right there at those highs again, I like that trade. It took it a minute to work on down, and then you got a failed second entry long. You really had the failed second entry long here, but there's so much overlap there that it's more like just a little congestion area and then the failed second entry. So I treated that like a failed second entry long, and you might have entered right there on it, and if you did, it was okay there. I guess I should mark that one too. But I didn't like that one as much because by that time you had the congestion, but when it tried it again and then turned down right off that trend line after you got a little confirmation of it there. So you really could have entered in any of those three places there. Make this just a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. But that's what I saw today, and if you back out, it's you can see things a little better. Just trying to find kind of a midpoint. Let's just leave it right there and we can talk about the trades. But we had this channel working down. You got a new low here, first entry pullback. There was a second entry short there, but by the time, and I guess if you did go short below that, let me move this. The second entry short triggered below this bar right here, which is bar 22. And you did have two legs back at that point, so I guess it's possible if you were trading at that point that you could have entered there. But everything is above the EMA. It is a trading range, and even though you got a trend channel, a lot of times you don't get a retest on these little short-term trends because there's too much support. So what time did that actually trigger? That was about 7:25. I didn't get here till 8 o'clock today myself, so um, I wasn't here when that triggered. And now looking at that a little closer, there's a chance that some people probably got tripped up there. You did have these highs across here. Notice all these highs, and we were looking for shorts. So if you got tripped up there when it reversed, it's a failed second entry. I actually had this circled originally. It's a failed second entry short there that reverses. So there's a trap. So if you got trapped there, you definitely wanted to switch to long. And if you didn't take the short, you definitely wanted to take the trap to the long side because you got to figure we're headed back up here. And you can see that's where we headed. And then you got another chance to go short here that you might have taken because we're back up here at these highs. It's a nice reversal bar, but it's real aggressive because there's a lot of overlap there, and you probably would have gotten stopped out on it. But this is one that was setting up about the time I got here, and if you did take it, you probably would have gotten stopped out unless you had your stop 2 ticks above this bar here, which is where I would have had mine, where I'd put mine. A lot of people will only use that 1 tick because they don't want to give it any more room. But I would say stay away from this trade simply because you got 3 overlapping bars and you just had a failed short right there. So there's a chance that it'll pull back and do just what it did and trap people. And that's what all that turned out to be, was a trap, because then you get this big bearish reversal bar right off these highs here. And this probably should have been moved down to right here by that time because that's where you got the most touches and closes. And you see, and we closed there again, and it just happened to break higher and then turn down. So I liked entering here a lot better because that's kind of a little reversal type pattern. You got your 2 legs up now and a failed break higher and a big reversal bar right at strong resistance. You don't know it's going to take off like this, but hey, you know it's probably headed to the other side of the range if it's going to be a range day and you're reading it properly, which it turns out it did. And there's probably some people that would have considered entering long here, but that's too bearish coming down. And we're just looking for a retest, which, and you got it right there. So some people might have thought about going long right there. I think it's real dangerous. You need to wait on a second entry, and that's the same reason I didn't mark this one. You got another new low there. And you might have even thought about going short. If you did, it worked, but I think it's too risky going short right in here. Let me just go ahead and make that one in lavender because some people will probably ask about it. A lot of times people will ask why I didn't mark a trade, but it just was so obvious that sometimes to me that I don't mark them. And that is a second entry. Notice you got your new low. You're pulling back first. No, it's actually a first entry. I take that back. It's a first entry short. And but it is a reversal off the EMA, but it's a first entry. It's too close to this. I'm looking for a bounce down here more likely because this is obvious. This is an obvious trading range area. So you're looking for to expect a reversal down there. You're just waiting on a second entry, and then you make a new low, and then by the time that first entry, even though it would have worked, you don't know that ahead of time, and there's too much overlap right there. You don't want to go long there. Wait on a second entry, and notice you make a higher high there than here, and then you pull back and you make a higher low, and then reverse, and that's a second entry counting off this new low. There's your first leg up, pull back. So now you're looking for a second leg up, and if you measure it, there's leg 1. And there's leg 2, a perfect measured move. There's your 2 legs up, and then of course you went into all that correction. So this is where I'd look to exit, right in here when you got to this line, maybe a tick in front of it, or as soon as something turned lower. So this was the first really good trade of the day besides this one, and I'm guessing not as many people probably would have taken this one because we weren't quite back. But if you know how I like to do it, and you've been following me a while, you know I like to use where you had the most touches with closes, and that could have been there, but this were the last closes, and I usually move it along to the last ones. And you can see we turned down first and then turned down again. And even though this is higher than that, it's similar to a second entry. But the reason I really like this one is that reversal type bar. Look how bearish that is. It opens up here and closes on its very low. That's what attracted me to that trade, especially with a little failed break higher. So notice you had a failed break lower here, but you didn't end with that kind of bearish reversal bar. You ended with a doji, and you might have thought about entering above that one there, but you're getting back too close to these highs, and if you're going to do that, use a limit order. And notice it came back right here and would have filled a limit order easily on either one of those breaks and then go higher. So nice easy move up there. Once you got into this, look at all that overlap. I mean, that's obvious. Anybody, even a inexperienced trader, should be able to see that. And even though the bias is up, prices are working their way back, and you would have thought about entering here on a break above that bar, but look how it closed down. And then finally you get one here, and it couldn't break above it either. So by that time, you just got to skip that trade. And notice it went. I don't even know if that would have worked if you'd have entered there. Now you would have 10.05 and a quarter, and look, it's 18. It's a 4-tick failure, and then it just kind of chops back over, and then finally you get this little trap right here. I like this one because you had a trap, and if you used anything but a stop here, you missed that trade. But you should recognize the trap because you had the little trading range. Let me just draw it in here, and you can see it. It was kind of, it's really right about there. And you finally broke lower and then turned up, and it went lower by a couple of ticks. And so I like that one. It's off the trend line. It is the break of the trend line, but you're looking for, you're looking for prices to try to come back up here and test these previous highs, and maybe even test the high of the trading range right there. And that's exactly what happens. I was tempted to draw that one in green because of the overlap, but you got that trap there, and I think that gives you enough reason with that being a break. And then, there's multiple support areas right in here with more room to the upside, so you're likely to go back up. Even if you're only going to make it to here, there's enough room. And you did fail kind of out the top here. Notice those stems up there, so you're likely to have a similar failure out the bottom. That's 2 ticks. This one's 2 ticks, and then boom, off it goes. And that's generally what happened. The bias is up here too, so you definitely don't want to be selling right there. You got to be more inclined to buy, and that's the first break of the trend channel, and then off it goes, and you really get 2 legs up. But you can't be buying up here, and you can't be selling yet either. So, but then it makes another new high, and you went on to make a new high here. That's a failed break. And on a range day, generally you can fade every new high and every new low. So all you need now is a setup. You don't really get a good setup off either of these entries. So there's your first good move, and so there's your second entry. That's really your first setup. And then it pulls back and has a failed second entry short that we talked about. I kind of looked at this like that wasn't, let me move all this. It's kind of, that's a doji, and it ticked higher. So yeah, it did tick higher, but it looks like you should be looking for a leg more like this one right here, and you didn't get that till right here, and then you get the failed move higher. So it's like it's really just a break back into the range, and then it comes back and retests it and turns down. But that's what I treated as the failed second entry long, or short rather, and then that one took off, and you can see it trapped a lot of people that tried to get long there, thinking that prices were going to go higher. They don't understand their rules. That what prices do. You had a trend line break, you had a failed break out of a trading range. This is just a retest of the former resistance. It holds again, and look at that turn down. And so when it broke below that bar, definitely. When it kept on going, you might have even thrown a limit order in there and hoped it came back and filled you. And I don't know if it would if I wasn't paying that close attention to it then. And then by that time, it's after 1 o'clock, and that's really the last trade of the day. You don't want to enter. There's too much congestion here, so you don't really want to enter here. I think it would have worked maybe if you entered below, if you got sucked in below that doji, but look at all that overlap. You would have been in at 03 and a quarter, and it's a 4-tick failure, 02 and a quarter. That may come on down here. That's your first break of the trend line, but notice you didn't get a trigger there either, and you probably want to wait on a second entry as well. So just not a lot of trades today, and the ones that were there were, you just about, you had to find your channels and be looking, following the rules, and that was really the only way you could stay with it, and then switching to your range rules. This is one of those days where when you're going from one side, from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the high, you can draw your channels and pretty much follow your channel rules. But once you get to your support area or to your resistance area, like here, then you got to switch over to your range rules. And that's how you trade that day. There's no other way to do it. And I'm thinking that looks more like, really that's where you get the most touches across there, using the closes as well. And you can see that and the little retest right there. Boom. So not much happening today. Not an easy day, and not a lot of trades. You had to be real patient and wait. And really, I would have taken 1, 2, 3, 4 trades today if I was trying to be conservative and pick the best trades. There's a few more there. Most of them are in green, but those are the ones that were there that are somewhat conservative, high probability type trades. And so really there were only about 4 of them. So if you can't learn to be patient, you're going to really struggle on days like this. And I think that's why most people struggle a lot on a day like this. To me, I like these kind of days because they're very predictable. You don't always get these moves like this, but you get them sometimes. And you should have been looking for a measured move over here. I think I can't remember if I showed you that or not, but there's your first leg down. And there's your measured move. And it looks like it missed it by 1 tick, being a measured move. That's just because there's such strong support down there. And then I showed you the 2 measured moves there. And then on top of that, you should have probably treated that. This is 1 leg up, and then your big correction. And then really your second leg started right in there. That gives you pretty close. These are a little bit more difficult to see, but you might have even looked at one like here because that's where you get your first correction. So first leg and then second leg. And we didn't quite make that. And generally it missed it by, well, let's just see, a tick or 2. I missed it by a tick, so that's pretty close. So I think that's probably realistic. But what you'd want to do is when you don't make your target, then you got to figure, hey, we're probably headed back to the lows again. And that's about all you can say about today. Draw those channels, follow the rules, and you might have even treated this one as a trend line back down. And you can kind of see that there. But I didn't draw a trend channel on the way up here because you had the break here, and this is like a retest. But sometimes you don't get, let's just draw this one. And you might have done the same thing right here. I mean, it always helps to draw these lines. And then, once you get the break, then you're looking for prices to come down. You get the break, the retest, then you're headed up. You get the break, the retest, and you're headed down. And we just now got a break of this low here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a retest here. But sometimes you don't because the support, see, this is probably where you get the most closes, maybe right along here with the most touches, and that's right where we bounce. So you may not get a retest here. We just have to see, but you don't want to be going long here. No reason to go long. Look at all that overlap. Plus it's 2:30 now. That doesn't mean you can't have a 10-point move real quick, but But my guess is they'll trap people to the long side and get a retest attempt, or at least test this low again, and then maybe it'll reverse. So, but that's what I saw today. We got about 20 minutes worth here, and I'm just filling time. There's not much else to talk about today. Just not many trades. But when you see this stuff, stay out of it. Same thing here. And this really is a failed break lower right here, but it didn't go lower than there. So if you draw your line across there, you can see you don't have the clear trap that you had here where you get a break lower. And you don't really get that over here. So even though there was a little break lower right there, it's not a clear trap. And so you definitely don't want to enter on that one. And the only reason I like this other one was because you had the little clear trap right there. That's just a double bottom with a trap. And when you get a double bottom with a trap like that, where the right side goes slightly lower, that's more powerful really than a flat bottom, double bottom, because you get people trapped, and it traps in shorts and it traps out longs. And so I like those kind of traps better than a trap where you got an equal double bottom like this one right here. And notice this one didn't go far before it came back. And notice how this one shot off like a rocket, but that's because it was a trap. So anyway, I'm going to finally wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Welcome back from the holidays, and we'll just kind of play it by ear over the next couple of weeks as we go into Christmas. I'll probably take the last couple of weeks of the year off, or may trade spottingly, but I'll be here for most of the week this week. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack, and we'll see you next